All right, ChroNoSo. Steve Bennett here, Steve Riddle there. Back on YouTube today, Steve.
Yes, because people can't get enough of our handsome faces.
Yeah, well, they usually find you and I together on your show, Mount Rushmore, which we should mention has been recently added to YouTube. So you can find it on the Place to Be Nation Pop Feed YouTube page. And some really good times we had over there. I did have a question for you, Steve, though, because this is something I want. Now, we scheduled this today, and luckily the schedules just worked out. It was really easy. We scheduled it. But I noticed with your show, you'll have it scheduled. Let's say it's coming up this Friday. And then something will happen. You'll be like, oh, I can't do it this Friday. It's off till next month. Like, how come can't you just reschedule it to like an upcoming Saturday or maybe record it on a Sunday? How come, Steve, with that show, it seems like if you have a scheduling glip, it's just off till the next month. It just what happens.
Well, sometimes it's the problem is too is that when I put the note out for that, nobody answers. So that's partially the main problem. That's why I'd like to do the advance notice so that people can, if somebody has availability, then that they can jump in there. May also be the topic too is not conducive to a lot of people, so it's just several factors. I try to be consistent with it, but it's just sometimes, as we know, real life gets in the way.
Yeah, well, if you have a topic, I know I always try to jump on because I always love doing that show. All right, for tonight, we're focusing on. We got a couple matches on this. Ryan asked, "Does everyone have this Shawn Michaels DVD?" And Steve and I said we collected those back in the 2000s. We got that DVD, and we're looking at two matches. One was from Madison Square Garden, Demolition versus the Rockers, and then another one was from London, Ontario. The Rockers versus the Orient Express in a rematch from WrestleMania 6. So let's start with Demolition, Steve. What kind of jumped out about this clash at the Garden?
Well, by this point, so this was from June of 1990, where we are on the timeline, and by this point, Demolition has now the 3-man unit. Crush is now in the mix. I don't know if they've fully turned heel yet because when they come out, they do still get a good little pop. But I think you can definitely see the wheels start turning there. For those that remember when me and Jeremy watched the Rockers Heart Foundation match from Saturday Night's Main Event, we kind of talked about how it seemed like Demolition turning heel was almost a necessity because the heel side of the tag division was pretty weak at this point. I mean, you only had really the Orient Express and Rhythm and Blues, which I mean, they're fine teams, but neither of them really stand out as like top heel contenders for Demolition. So you almost it was almost a necessity to turn Demolition, and especially also that we're on the verge of a team about to enter the company that was going to further necessitate that. So it was kind of weird seeing the 3-man unit for Demolition. I mean, we've been so used to Axis Smash. As a unit, and now bringing Crush in the mix, you can definitely tell the chemistry was thrown off a little bit. It took a while for them to kind of get it all down. At least that's what I thought. I mean, I know you were obviously watching very intensively during this time frame. What was your opinion of when they added Crush?
Well, first to correct myself, the Demolition match at the Garden was the one from '88. So we're in '90. This was actually recorded right down the street from me in Rochester at the War Memorial Auditorium on June 5th, 1990, 8,000 people. And this was the second match we watched. So my bad, but we can work backwards. I had just went to WrestleMania 6, obviously in April. So this is definitely a time where I was very, very into wrestling and watching all the time. And I could never get used to the 3-man Demolition. It's kind of like when a favorite band changes their singer or something, just the songs don't sound right anymore. The guitar grooves don't hit the same. And as soon as there was a 3-man Demolition, I was out and I was cheering for like the Hearts to eventually get the titles at the end of the summer. We'll get there, I'm sure. But I was out on this 3-man Demolition, just never a fan of it. To me, that Crush just didn't look like he belonged in Demolition. You know what I mean? It just didn't feel right. And I know they had their reasons for having to do it. And like you said, maybe out of necessity for the division, they went heel. But I also think the 3-man team just didn't work as faces because I think overall, we just rejected this. I remember talking about it at the lunch table, Steve, back in the elementary school in West Seneca, New York here back in the 90s. Us saying, man, it's just not right. That team's just not the same anymore.
Yeah, and quite precipitous fall, because you mentioned WrestleMania. I mean, when they beat the Colossus Connection to become champions,
Pop. Huge.
That pop was amazing. And now here we are 2 months later, and it already feels like, they're not quite on their last legs, but you can definitely see they're definitely on the downslide.
Yeah, they're fading. We're gonna get to Axe not combing his hair at Survivor Series here in a blink. You know what I mean? We're gonna go from here to there very quick. So yeah, it was a huge fall for them. I did see a wrestling show in the 90s at this building at War Memorial, and it was sort of just a smaller version of the War Memorial Auditorium we had in Buffalo here, but it was a great place to see a show. Very intimate. I think it said there was 8,000 tickets sold for this event. So 8,000 people, really good venue. I thought the pace of this match was really good. Some really good wrestling, I thought, in it. So I really enjoyed watching it. And like I said, the cool thing about this DVD is there's actually a few different Rockers and Demolition matches. So you can kind of follow the evolution of the rivalry. Like I said, there was a tag team title match October 24th, 1988 at Madison Square Garden between the Rockers and Demolition. And then we had this match June 5th, 90. So a couple different Demolition matches. And there was a couple different matches with a couple different tag teams. So it's kind of a cool thing about this DVD is to kind of see the evolution of the matchups. Anything else you wanted to say about that first one, Steve?
I mean, the match itself was fine. It was just about 9 minutes. Rockers start hot. There was one point where Shawn did a crossbody up top and smashed like Conan, but like almost lost his grip, and then Shawn almost landed on his head.
Yeah.
So that was a scary bit. Then Demolition took over. Crush, I thought, looked okay. I mean, really wearing utilized the bear hug a lot to wear Shawn down. And then Marty gets the hot tag, and then they clean house. And then the finish, of course, Shawn rose up smash, but an Axe clotheslines him from the apron, which allows Smash to get the win. So again, slow, heel tendencies building up here for Demolition, using the third man to their advantage to get the win here. So again, decent little match here for both teams.
The better of the two, I thought, was this kind of cool match against the Orient Express from April 29th, 1990 in London, Ontario. And I love when we go back on ChroNoSo and we look at these old matches. I love finding out about the arenas and the different places where the WWF went at this time. And the London Knights are the OHL team in Ontario that this is their building. They have a new, beautiful building that opened like in 2006. And I've been there a few times for Pearl Jam. It's a really, really class minor league hockey, like just a beautiful arena. Well, this is their old place that opened in the 60s. And I found some really interesting information about it. One, they had their day, Steve. They got the Rolling Stones came to London, Ontario, and they're playing in this little arena. And the concert lasted 15 minutes because they started a riot and the cops shut it down. So I thought that was a wild story. Then when the arena was eventually purchased right around this time, the owner of the London Knights wanted a new arena. So he purposely let the arena deteriorate to try to force the city to build them a new arena. And eventually what happened is they forced him out of the ownership of the OHL, and the new owners came in and eventually got their new arena. But sort of a cool kind of little look back at this place in London where they had this match. It was called the London Ice House. And it was originally built in 1963 and it closed in 2002. But a lot of WWF events. Another thing I noticed about this match, it's the match of the mullet. 3 of the 4 guys just have crazy mullets, Steve. I don't know what the one Orient Express got a fade, but the other 3 just had some massive mullets going on. A lot of hair, but I thought a lot of action, really fast match, kind of ahead of its time still, I think, for the speed these 4 guys are working at in the ring. Not crazy finish, but we could talk about that in a minute. What did you think about the match in general between the Orients and the Rockers here with their WrestleMania 6 rematch.
I thought it was again a good little match. I think I do prefer it a little more than the WrestleMania match. I know there was supposed rumors in the WrestleMania match that the Rockers weren't in their right state of mind, and that kind of affected it. So I think they definitely looked a lot more in sync here. Again, kind of following the same template. Rockers start fast, take control, and then a cane shot from Fuji to Shawn gives the Orient's control. I did notice Tanaka constantly bowing to Fuji during like the heat segment, which just seemed kind of like, I don't know why he kept doing that. It just seemed kind of weird. But then Marty again gets the hard tag. We get the big the fast finish there, and kind of weird that after the Orients get the countout win at WrestleMania, the Rockers get their countout win back here. So, and then the Orients just kind of walked off. Just I thought maybe that we would get like a post match brawl between the two teams, but we didn't. So,
did you ever play the game Pro Wrestling on Nintendo?
I don't think I had that game.
So this was my strategy in that game. I would get the guy outside and knock him down and beat him up until 9, and then I'd rush back into the ring so that they got counted out. I would time out my punch to them. I'd make them chase me around the ring till like 8, then I'd knock them out at 9, I'd slide back. This is how I won matches. I think they stole the finish from me. But yeah, the count is going on, and the Rockers just slide back in at 9, and the Orients get counted out. I thought Fuji worked his ass off, though. You mentioned him getting bowed to a lot. He did take a nice bump here, I thought. And just all these guys, Jimmy and Bobby and all these managers from this day, Slick, they always just worked their ass off and took so many great bumps. And we always got such pleasure in watching them get beat up back in this era. It was always a fun part of it. I thought the commentary, my daughter Paul kept talking about, we were going through it. Who are these announcers? Who are these announcers? Where are the right announcers? Where's Jesse? Where's Gorilla? But who do we have here? We have Lord Alfred and somebody, I think, on this, and Sean Mooney maybe on this one.
Yeah, I think they usually do like the house shows and the dark, those like dark matches.
Yeah, some different announcers, but yeah, fun DVD if you want to find these matches. It's on Shawn Michaels, the Showstopper Unreleased. They were doing these unreleased ones towards the end. They did a Randy Savage one, I think, and they did a
Piper,
yeah, and they did like years, right? Like 87 to 90 in general.
Yeah, they did that big unreleased one from like 85 to 95. That's a really good find if you can find it.
And that one has no commentary at all, right? They're all pretty much just house show match. Is that one?
Yeah, it's like all house show matches or like dark matches. Yeah.
Some of these DVDs, you mentioned you have a nice collection. I have a great collection. I remember the first one, I was pretty much a Laps fan at this moment, and I was in FYE of all places, and I saw the Greatest Wrestlers of the 1980s DVD, and it just caught my eye. I'm like, what is this? Like, these are guys I used to love to watch. I remember I bought that one first, and then they would come out every couple months. I remember Greatest Saturday Night's Main Event one that I have, and like at that point I didn't seen the Saturday Night match, but this is pre-network and pre even 24/7 streaming. I don't think it happened yet when these really started to come out. Hulk Still Rules was one of the early ones I remember I got, but there's so many great sets, and they're relatively easy to pick up, like on eBay and places like that now after the fact too. Some of them are rarer than others, but for the most part, if there's one you want, I think I have a Hell in a Cell compilation. I got the 90s one you talked about. I got a few Shawn Michaels, and then the Blu-ray era too. Then the Blu-ray era came, and there's a bunch of Blu-rays as well. But what's your favorite in your collection over there? You got one you want to shout out as like one of the better ones that you like having? Yeah, so we're going to share a couple from our collection. And Steve, I grabbed the OG, the first one that I bought that I saw at FYE that got me back into sort of watching again. It's a really cool, I think it's 3 discs. There's great pictures in here, really good packaging. Oh, one of the DVDs falling out. But this was a really cool one. One of the first ones I got. I think Hulk Still Rules was the first one I got, but this came out maybe 4, 5, 6 months later and really got me back in the swing of watching them. So this is a really cool one. What do you got? What's your first one over there, Steve?
Well, I got the first of the Bret Hart DVDs, the one that came out in 05, because this, yep, because if you remember, this was the whole thing. They originally were gonna
this brought
he
him
was
back, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, because he wanted this DVD out. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a good one. Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Let me just,
I'll show it while you're getting your new one out. Yeah, some great pink and black themed box here, some good pictures. And this was a really big moment in the business because Bret wanted this out so bad that he sort of made peace with Vince and came back so that this could get released.
Yeah, this one's an interesting one. This one I like more for the story than the actual matches. That's the AWA DVD.
Yeah, that's a really good. I just watched that documentary recently.
Yeah, I also have First Savage.
Oh, that's DVD. A good one.
Wish he would have been a part of this one, but
yeah. Then they did make the Blu-ray with the documentary that Lanny kind of drives. This was that one I was talking about, the Saturday Night's Main Event one. That came out. I remember I bought this one at FYE too. And I remember I got it home and I took out the booklet here. And I remember turning it and seeing that disc 1 only got to 1987. And I'm like, this is so awesome. There's one whole disc and we're not even to 88 yet. And they did a really great job on this. Obviously, now that we have all the episodes, but this was so huge at the time because I hadn't seen like any of these matches in just years. And I remember the first one I wanted to watch really badly was the Paul Orndorff and Hulk Hogan steel cage in Hartford where they tied on January 3rd, 1987. So that match is on here. But this was another one. So yeah, those are the ones that I grabbed, the Hitman one like you, the Saturday Night's Main Event, and the this could be a good, if someone wants to do it, probably a good podcast series or, a podcast series. We can add some of these old sets and going over them. It's like it's like another generation of Coliseum home video that we had in the 80s and 90s. And then they had this in the 2000s and 2010s. So I think that's it, Steve. Vegas, Steve's down there. He's got the great podcast I love doing with him, Mount Rushmore. Look for that on the pop feed of Place to Be Nation. And you could find me at sports_casters there. But I think right now we're going to sign off on YouTube. And Ryan, on the podcast, you're going to ring the bell.